And we're live.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now. Just know that you're locked in until the point with
Skip.
And the King. You guys go down there, click subscribe, click like, leave some comments. Today, we have the one and only, my man out there, Robert Misovic, the one and only. If you guys want to find him, Google him.
Now, if you want to find me, you can find me on Pensare Basketball. We're gonna drop the Google him thing.
That is a dope channel, bro. That is a dope channel. I watch it every time you post a video. It's absolutely amazing. You guys go down there and check that out. We'll leave a link for you. Make sure you click subscribe, click like. Yeah, because there's other people out there that get subs, and we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to trigger Robert today.
Good stuff.
Okay.
All right.
But Robert, you are on here today because you were Robert Damas before the draft.
Mm-hmm.
You did say the Raptors should get Scottie Barnes.
I did. Okay? Yep.
Everybody's favorite player right now on the Raptors, except for my mom. You know, she loves Freddie. Let's not get started there. But with what this kid has showcased in this microcosm, in these only 15 games that he has played, he has shown a level of excellence and very much potential. So my question to you, Robert, is how does he compare to the great players that have come on the court before him in this 15 games?
Yes, I mean, his numbers, we're probably going to talk about his numbers through 15 games or 13 games, but there are a lot of, people who've compared his numbers through 5 games, 7 games, etc. And they've been pretty close to some of the game's all-time greats, right? I mean, give or take a little bit. He's been great. But the one thing I would say is that more so than the numbers is just watching him conduct himself on the court. He looks like he belongs. He doesn't look scared, despite some people saying that he hasn't been assertive enough. I think he's been great. And one of the things I look for in young players is consistency. And apart from the last game, he's been double digits consistently, attacks the rim. And the other thing I look for is where are you getting your numbers and how are you getting your numbers, right? It's not just so important that someone scores 15 points a game. It's how are they scoring 15 points? And
exactly.
Right? And so he takes good shots. It's one thing to tell the guy to attack, but he has higher basketball IQ than that. So he's not going to make a bad read just to get his shot off. So he makes other people better. I really appreciate that. He plays 2 ways, which is something you usually don't get from young players. He impacts winning. I think he's impacted winning a lot. There have been moments in the game where he's turned the energy around for the entire team. And I think he can get a lot better. And I think maybe my biggest takeaway from him so far this season is I don't necessarily think that anything he likes to do is something that the defense can really stop. Again, I've watched Cade Cunningham. I've watched a lot of guys play this year in the rookie class, and they do pick up some big games against, lax defenses or defenses that are giving up a little bit too much. But when they face a good team and that driving angle is shut down or that post up that was previously easy is no longer easy. But with Scottie Barnes, he's not really getting his numbers against bad teams. He actually shows up for the big games. So if that's being said, we're about an hour away from the Golden State game. I expect him to show up tonight. I expect him to play really well against the guy that he's technically been compared to his entire career in Draymond Green. So that should be interesting. Yeah.
Skip, what former great or maybe retired NBA player do you see Scottie Barnes compared to?
Okay, so when he was drafted, we were more talking about current players. We were comparing him to like the Draymonds, the Ben Simmonses, the Giannis's, and I think there's still a lot of truth to those 3 comps. But I was, when we were brainstorming this episode, I sort of went back and I looked at a few of the historical greats, and the guy that kind of jumped out at me, and it's not a perfect comparison. I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect comparison because at the end of the day, the best thing that Scottie Barnes could be is Scottie Barnes. Like, not the next this guy, the next that guy. Scottie Barnes, a player who defines the game according to his own rules. But I went back and I sort of looked at Kevin Garnett. I was sort of thinking, what if Scottie's a bit of a smaller KG? Because I know you love KG. But the thing with Scottie isn't necessarily that he's elite at this skill, elite at that skill. Like I was looking at like Magic Johnson. Like he's not going to be an elite passer. He's not going to be an elite rebounder. But if he can be a great rebounder, a great passer, a great scorer, get his own shot, play great defense, be a really well-rounded all-around player. He's obviously is a bit smaller than Garnett. He doesn't necessarily get his shots in the exact same ways. But I think as we see him start to take over, as we see him start to dominate games more, I think that might be where we're kind of going with this. And I was thinking, so I looked at KG's rookie year actually, and for his whole rookie year, he started out as a bench player. He didn't really turn into Kevin Garnett until kind of the All-Star break that season. That's when he started playing in the starting lineup, and he didn't really turn into KG, the superstar, until the following season. So I don't know, let's see if I got his numbers here. So yeah, he was scoring about 10 points a game, 6.3 rebounds, and we're looking at Scottie. Scottie's 14.9 points, 8-point run rebounds, but that's obviously in a higher level of usage. The thing that struck me is 49.7 effective field goal percentage for both players. So they were scoring at about the same rate in the rookie year when they were being played. And I think if he can kind of follow a little bit of that growth curve, that's sort of where maybe his upper level percentile would be as being a star in this league. I don't think it's fair to compare him to like a LeBron or someone who was just already a superstar when they showed up in the league. He's very good, but he's still developing. He's still a work in progress. And he's probably a year or two away from being this guy who can be a total superstar in the league, all-star every year type of player.
I mean, Skip, if you compare his first 15 games to LeBron's first 15 games, I would argue his numbers are better.
Yeah.
He's shooting a higher percentage. He's grabbing more rebounds. He's got slightly fewer assists on much higher usage. I mean, on much lower usage. And yeah, he's averaging 2 less points per game, but he's taking fewer shots.
Lower usage is the key there. Because LeBron came into the league and he was expected to lead that team. He was expected to be a superstar from the day he put on the uniform for the first day. Like,
I think people expected him to slowly become one. I don't think anyone expected him to come in and be like the best player in the league, right? A superstar. I think we use that term a little too lax, right? People expected him to become a superstar. Nobody expected an 18-year-old to come into the league and be a superstar. There were a lot of people who said Carmelo would be better than him for a while, right? And that they were taking the upside pick in LeBron. You know, so yeah, he has a lot of skills that translate well, but he was still 18 years old, and I don't think that it's necessarily fair to compare a guy who's 20 to a guy who's 18 necessarily. Mm-hmm. But I will also say that LeBron didn't win very much in his first year, and Scottie, you know, at least up until Pascal Siakam came back, was, you know, on a top 5 team in the East. And I don't think Scottie has been used properly. Number one, I think his numbers.
That was my next question I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
That was a question I wanted to ask you. But first, can I say, guys, within this microcosm of the first 15 games of all these greats, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, okay, and my guy, Kobe Bryant, Scottie has a higher usage rate than my guy, Kobe, but he has better numbers. So I see the ceiling for this guy to go through the roof. Like, Robert,
we're not comparing this. We're not comparing Kobe Bryant at 18 years old. Like, on the bench behind Nick Van Exel. No, that's not a fair
and plus he's a guard. Like, it's a completely different role.
I get it. But there's also the one thing that I do like about him, where I do like where he's going with Kobe, is that mentality. It's like Robert, you did post a while ago about Scottie Barnes' mentality. Like, he's a nice guy. He'll shake hands with the refs. He'll shake hands with the other team. He will be nice to everybody. But once that ball is on the floor, it's just like, Skip, you've played with me. You've seen, once that ball goes on the court, I will eat your fetus on this microphone. Okay?
That's actually...
That's one thing I really do like about him. I do like that he is...
I guess you're saying if you were 6'9", you'd be Scottie Barnes, eh? I like that.
No, if I was 6'8", I'd probably be Kobe. But I'm only 5'7". So, but that does bring it in. So, Robert, I did want to also ask you, like, Are there any notable greats that you can see a little bit instilled into Scottie Barnes? Because Skip did say with the energy of Kevin Garnett, I did say about the mentality about Kobe Bryant. You have spoken about this with the court vision like Magic Johnson. Are there any other notable players that you could see him taking on that sort of persona and the humbleness of Tim Duncan?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I find that it's kind of crazy that we're even talking about a guy being compared to some of these names, because I mean, we were like 2 months ago we were talking about Suggs versus, you know what I mean? It's kind of crazy how quickly that narrative has shifted, and while these conversations did sound really crazy 2 months ago when we drafted him, they don't sound nearly as crazy anymore. They're still a little bit crazy, but they don't sound as crazy anymore.
These are like 99th percentile outcomes. Like there's still a lot that could go wrong. Yeah.
There is, but like I'll say this much, right? He was on pace roughly. He was on pace for about 17 or 18 points, 8 rebounds, and if he had the ball just a little bit more and his teammates made some passes, made some shots, it'd be like 5-6 assists, right? You tell me how many players in this league that have ever come in and have had one season where they averaged 17, 18, 8, and 6, right? Now, I'm not big on box score numbers. I don't care about those numbers, but I'm just saying for the casual fan watching out there, for a lot of people, they would have said that was upside for Scottie. Like that would have been max upside, maybe in year 6, that he might get to the point where he could score 18 points.
He could do that now.
Exactly. And if you put him in the same role as a lot of these other players that we're comparing him to, not Kobe, not MJ, not, necessarily those guys, but a lot of these other guys that did start out on losing teams, so there weren't those expectations, and the coaches kind of knew what the drill was, and we're going to say, okay, we're going to force feed you 15, 20 shots a game. Put him in the same situation as Jalen Green or someone like that. And just what he does is just not as easy to stop as what Jalen Green does. And Jalen Green's a hell of an athlete, but he's got plenty of years in the weight room left for him to be NBA ready enough. So you asked me about NBA greats that I really like, that I comp Scottie to. See, I think Scottie's a throwback player, and I felt this way about a lot of players, actually. Some good, some bad. Like I felt Marvin Bagley was a throwback player, and he is a throwback player. I felt Jahlil Okafor was a throwback player, and those two guys suck. So, you know what I mean? So like maybe throwback player isn't always the greatest thing, but I also feel Jalen Green is a throwback player. I also felt Melo was oh man, I'm just listing a whole bunch of people probably people don't like, right? But in a weird way, I also felt LeBron James was a throwback player way back when, right? In 2003, when I was looking at this draft, I was like, LeBron feels like a throwback to the 80s of like basketball purity, in terms of how he approaches the game. And you can tell the influences are clear. Like when you watch Scottie Barnes, that he definitely watched a lot of 80s Lakers, a lot of Showtime. There's a lot of those guys that were dominant.
A lot of 90s Bulls.
I don't know if there's a lot of 90s Bulls in this game. Sure. I mean, if you're going to go there,
Lakers?
It's interesting. I see a lot of Rasheed Wallace in his game.
Yes.
Rasheed in the post. I remember watching in 2001. It was the Portland Trail Blazers against the Lakers, and this was right before the Portland Trail Blazers were on the verge of imploding and becoming the Jailblazers. And I remember that the Blazers were having these guys foul out because they were trying to cover Shaq, and they're complaining to the refs. Like, what the hell do you want us to do with this guy? Sabonis is fouling out. Like, Dale Davis is fouling out. Like, Sean Kemp, they can't do anything. And then I think it was a commentator at the time said, and the Lakers are saying, and we don't know what the hell to do with Sheed. And I'm saying it's not entirely true to say that Sheed in the block was as dominant as Shaq in the block, but Sheed's turnaround was about as unstoppable as any move in the NBA at that point. And if
he's like the original Draymond Green. I'll say that.
What the
in my opinion. Just in my opinion.
Jesus Christ. Okay. No, he was not. He was not. When we're talking offense here, we're talking Rasheed Wallace was an offensive savant. Okay. People don't give him enough credit because he just wasn't a selfish player. But in terms of like when he wanted a bucket, this guy can get a bucket from anywhere, from 3, from 2. He just wasn't a selfish player. He didn't care about stats. He didn't care about all-star. And so the personality, and he was super intense. Like, and yeah, I think Scottie might be a little bit better raised. But
well, I want to get into that. So can we talk about killer instinct a little bit? Because I think the guys we brought up, all of these guys are a little bit terrifying in a way. Like KG, I mean, I don't know if you've seen Uncut Gems, but I would not want to cross KG in a dark alley. Same with the Sheik.
I don't think KG's that tough, to be
Well,
honest.
no, I mean, I don't know about tough, but just I think he has that.
And I don't
edge,
think he had
right?
killer instinct
I think
personally.
he had
I
that
think
edge.
he's just hype. I think he's just hype, dude. Like I think he's just one of those guys who's really intense. Like
Yeah,
in
to
terms
put
of
your-
just emotional energy is really intense.
Yes.
I think Scottie's
Mind-
intensity is
put
a
your
little
mental
bit.
state into that.
Yeah,
It takes
I
a
think.
lot out of you.
Yeah, I've heard some crazy stories about KG growing up and stuff.
And then-
I interviewed one of the people at one point who went to high school with him. Yeah, I mean he's. I would argue he's a bit of a bully, personally.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not disagreeing
Yeah.
with that. I'm saying that does Scottie have that in him? Like, because that's not necessarily a good quality, but it might be a good quality on the basketball court.
I think
It's a
Scottie
great
is.
quality on the basketball court, Skip.
Yeah, I think Scottie's got attitude. Like there's a lot of games in high school that I saw with him, and I think I mentioned this to you guys when we were doing initially the thing where we're talking about whether he's alpha or not, and I mentioned that he was super alpha, and that there was like this one time where one of his teammates got into a fight, and he just kind of looked at the other guy, and the guy's just like, I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to deal with that shit. And so, yeah, they think that the whole big teddy bear, the big Gumby look, that he's got, and he's super nice and he's always smiling. I think there's definitely like something underneath that, which is absolutely intense. And I know it because every time he's on a breakaway, he does this really funny thing, and his habit has been there since grade 9. He's been doing it since grade 9, where he looks
Since high
back
school?
at the guy who's trailing him, just to make sure he makes eye contact before slamming it on him. And he just
That's gonna blow up in his face one day. But anyway,
it almost already has, but like that's the funny thing. He always does it, and it's just always been there in his game. And so there's like a two-side duality with him. And so yeah, I think he's really intense, but I also think he's just a really good person. And it's possible to be really intense and be a really good person. I think Rasheed Wallace was a really good person. And I think Rasheed Wallace is really intense. If you listen to Rasheed Wallace for even 10 minutes, talk about his causes, his family, etc., he's just a really good dude. But on the court, it's just like, don't mess with this guy. He's a competitor, and I like guys who hate losing. I will tell you that right now.
Oh, hell yeah. Why do you think you're on the show with us? You hate losing. I hate losing. Skip hates losing. We all hate losing.
Yeah, so like I think, and then I think maybe there are a lot of guys who don't like losing, but there's some people who take losing like personally, like it's just personal to them. And I kind of watch him after these losses, especially the ugly losses for the Raptors, and it's like you can tell he just wants to get out of that building. He's done with it. You know what I mean? And there's too many guys, especially young players, where they're just so excited to be on the court and see their friends and meet this player that they've been looking up to, that they'll put up a big smile after the game. But Scottie's just like, I'm done. Like my friend was commenting, I don't think I've seen Scottie Barnes smile for 2 weeks until they won last game. Then I saw him finally smile. But he scored 2 points last game, but he doesn't care. Scored 2 points. They just won. And that's when you saw him on the bench chanting for Banton. And that's when you saw him, getting excited. But it's like some guys can only get hype when they're having a good game. He gets hype when they're winning. And that's what I really appreciate about him. And I think that if going forward, he's going to be your top guy, well, frankly, your top guy's values get passed down. And we talked about this on that debate. Any sport you look at, right? If your top guy is meticulous when it comes to details, if your top guy is a hard worker who shows up like 6 hours early, if your top guy is coachable, everyone else falls in line. And if your top guy doesn't give a shit about, all-star selections, DPOY, MVP votes, he doesn't care about this stuff. He's just like, nah, winning. That's all we care about, winning. I never saw Kyle Lowry make an ad to be an all-star. I never heard that. I never heard him talk about like, I want to be an all-star. I mean, I know he wanted to be an all-star
with the cowboy hat.
Exactly, but it's like, how much did Chris Bosh win and how much did Kyle Lowry win? And that's the thing. Winners win. It sounds so redundant, but it's super true. If your end goal is to be rich and famous, you will always attract into your life what you prioritize. If you want friends, you're gonna have friends. You want money, you're gonna have money. If you want fame and notoriety and podcasts and money, like Fred, no, like I don't want to do a little drive-by on Fred VanVleet there, but like it's true, right? This whole bet on yourself shit. I've never heard Fred VanVleet talk about championships as a priority. I never have. Never, like, okay, yeah, I've heard him say like we want to go back to the finals, we want to go whatever, but that's not his end game. His end game would be get paid, build generational wealth for your family. I respect that. I get that because he's also hardworking. But that guy can't be your leader. That can't be your number one guy, because that to me is like, this is a team game. And now you just have like a bunch of individuals. And you put that guy in charge, you take Lowry out, you put him in. I've never seen more ISO ball in Raptor history than I have seen in the last 15 games. It is the most frustrating shit in the world to watch. So I've been on my soapbox. This is like, what do you expect the other guys to play like? If you play like that, who else cannot play like that? Like you guys play basketball, right?
Exactly,
on the court.
Exactly.
Right?
It's like when you're on the court with a guy who's just randomly taking shots. He's not looking for anybody. He's not trying to create.
Right.
He's just creating.
Oh yeah, we've all been with that guy. Yeah.
When I get the ball in my hand,
I'm doing the same thing.
Everybody.
Exactly.
I'm going right to the hole, or I'm taking a shot. And guess what? That deteriorates the team, and that causes a lot of separation between players. You know, some guys might look at each other after the game and be like, "Man, screw you." You know what I mean? Or some guys like have some sort of animosity towards each other.
There definitely does seem to be a little tension between, well, from what we can see between, like you said, VanVleet and Scottie and maybe a couple other players, but it's
sure. It's like a fight for the ball.
Yeah. Robert, you have said it, but a lot of people who have the blinders on, they completely disagree with you, even though you are spitting facts on this.
Yeah, but I'm seeing a lot more of that. Like, so for instance, the last game against Sacramento, right? I believe it was against Sacramento when Fred had the 7 turnovers, right? And he threw that bullet pass to Scottie in the corner, right? And it just went past Scottie. And Fred does.
Scottie wasn't looking though, but yes, Fred got in his face.
And Fred was just like, what? And then what I loved was that Scottie went right back.
Yeah.
He's
and
like,
there
I'm not gonna.
There was another incident in the same game where it was a little more subtle, but Fred went to pick Ken Burch up and he sort of said something to Scottie, and Scottie like walked away, like, I don't want to hear it. So there's a little bit of tension there.
And there was another play. Remember in the first quarter? Remember on our group chat where I was like, why is Fred holding the ball when Scottie's wide open?
No, for sure. For sure. And
passed it, and then he just went and did a shot and missed.
Yeah, and people will point to the fact that, there was that one time when Scottie picked up Fred when he scored and he tapped his chest, and people will point to Scottie, that loud scream that he, and you can keep pointing to these things, but I'm telling you, the body language between these two players is two players that don't like each other. And I'll tell you, when I was 13, I was 12 years old, and there was this basketball court that I used to play at, and you know how basketball courts are. There's the side that good people play at and the side that not so good people play at. And I was always at the side that not good people play at, and I would always dream of getting onto the court with the big dudes, the big high schoolers and the college kids and the big grown men. And I would watch them sometimes when our game was going on. I would watch them, and I remember they had an injury. Some guy rolled his ankle, and they came over to our court and they said, who wants to take? And I'm looking at all my friends, and no one said, I want to go, because people knew, like, people get blocked hard against the backboard on that court, and none of us were ready. And I was like, I'll go. And they look at me like, you sure, bro? I was like, yeah, So I get onto the court and I get the ball, and I don't do anything. I pass it back, right? The next time I get the ball, I choke. Like I threw it off my foot and tried to dribble. The next time I get the ball, I didn't do anything. I passed it back. Then this guy, he goes up, he has a wide open layup, and he passes it out to me. And he's like, shoot. And I miss. And I'll feel real bad. And he comes up to me, he's like, bro, the only reason we're not going to bring you back is if you don't take that shot. I've seen you before. You can make that shot. Make that shot. Bro, I scored 7 points straight. It was like probably the happiest moment of my life, because people were like gassing the shit out of those guys, and they were like, oh, how you letting this 12-year-old score on you? And bro, every single time I ever played with a young kid after that, I always tried to do the same thing for them, because it was like, that shit is empowering. And it's like you have a rookie here who's trying to struggle to find his way in the league, and you're chasing all-star stats and you're freezing him out and you're not giving him the ball, you're not letting him bring up the ball. And it feels so selfish. And I get it, you know.
It was troubling. Like that Kings game, they won by a lot, so you can't complain too much. But it was weird to see Scottie so out of the offense. Like he even when he was playing with the bench unit, he was barely involved. And that's not what we want from Scottie.
Well, I think he got a little bit more involved when he got Point, right? He had those couple of 3 possessions in a row where it was like, okay, he scores one, then he almost scores the other one. The guy gets the offensive rebound, then he gets that really amazing pass. And it's like suddenly that was a turning point in the game where it was like it went from like a 10-point lead to like an 18-point lead. And it was like we never looked back after that.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating as a Raptor fan to watch because look, going into the season, a lot of people would say like we were 7th or 6th best case playing, you know, but we have seen the talent. And I don't think anyone walking into this season expected Gary Trent to be this good. And I don't think anyone walking into this season expected Scottie Barnes to be this good, right? So there are some players who already popped. And Bobby Webster said in his press conference, right? Like exactly, it has to come together. And you know, so all the pieces are there, right? The talent is there. I don't necessarily like for all the hype that the Bulls get, I don't necessarily think that they're considerably more talented than the Raptors. I mean, they're a little bit more talented than the Raptors, but they're not considerably more talented than the Raptors. I don't think the Washington Wizards are considerably more talented than the Raptors, right?
You know what, brother? It's like us. We're a bunch of all-stars, but we find a way to make it mesh.
You need to stop comparing us to Raptors. You need to stop comparing us to Toronto Raptors.
We're in a different lane. We're a bunch of different guys. We do different things. But like what you said about the empowerment, I do enjoy what you said about like the surprise of Gary Trent and Scottie Barnes. Maybe you can come back on, Robert, and we can get into further detail about that one. But as of right now, we're pretty short on time. Robert, this has been an amazing conversation. This topic we designed specifically just for you, so I hope you enjoyed saying what you have to say. And it was a pleasure for us to respond back to you and maybe give you our point of view. Mm-hmm. And those of you out there that are watching this and you don't like Robert, talk to me. We'll have a problem. I'll take it personally. Okay? So
leave a comment.
Leave a comment. It helps the algorithm get this video out there.
And click like. Shout out to our guys, Rob, James, Kenyon. Shout out to all our guys out there, Andrew Reese. Jazz,
I will say one final thing. Like I think we steered a little bit off topic because of my rambling about hoop dreams of childhood past. But I will say this. Like we were talking about comparisons for Scottie Barnes, and I think that Tim Duncan, Rasheed Wallace, whether we're talking about these guys or we're talking about KG, what Doug's, I'm saying Doug EJ is what Skip said, right? Or we're talking about Magic, or we're talking about James Worthy or Scottie Pippen, which is a very popular comparison that a lot of people like to bring up, or whether we're talking about Giannis. Ultimately, what we're talking about is all the game's greats, right? And I think that the first game I ever watched was Shaquille O'Neal. He had 9 turnovers. That was his rookie year. So 1993, right? 92, 93. And it's like, you could tell he was going to be great. Even in a 9 turnover game, you could tell he was going to be great. There's a lot of guys like that where, exactly. It's just like there's something about certain players where you're like, this is going to be special in a couple of years, right? I haven't felt that way about a Raptor rookie ever. I never felt that way about Chris Bosh. Never felt that way about DeMar. I was just kind of relieved that they looked like they could be serviceable or good starters. I think Scottie has a special it factor when it comes to how he impacts the game, how he carries himself, what he can do on the court. There's some freakish generational abilities there. I always say basketball is a game of space. It's covering space on defense and creating space on offense. And Scottie creates a lot of space through his passing, through his strides, through the way he processes the game. I think he's an incredibly special player. So I think Raptor fans should be very, very happy and be patient with the guy because he's playing through this thumb injury right now, and his shooting touch has not been the same over the last 5-6 games. But again, prior to that injury, he really was on pace for like 18-6 and like 18-8-4 type of season. That's incredible.
Robert, I was actually thinking of you today and Scottie Barnes while I was watching my Minnesota Vikings beat the Green Bay Packers, because there's a player on our team, on our Vikings, Justin Jefferson, and he is basically the football version of Scottie Barnes. He's got that energy. He's got that hype. Like, you love him. Like, he's a young kid. He's already proven that he can be one of the top. Right? He's showing it. He's showing everybody. And actually, through that 3 hours watching the game, almost having a heart attack about 4 times, I was thinking of you and Scottie Barnes. So, but thank you for your insight. Guys, we had a game to go check out right now. Gonna go see the chef cook it up. So you guys go down there, click subscribe, click like, go to where, Robert? What's that channel? Can you please say it? It's
Pensare Basketball. And Pensare, once again, for anyone out there who's not Italian, is Pensare means to think. So it's thinking basketball,
There's some great videos, guys. Go down there, watch it. Sometimes I'm up at 2, 3 in the morning watching it. So go down there, click subscribe on Robert's channel. Click subscribe on To The Point. On behalf of Robert, Skip, and myself, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and
peace.
Peace.